Any comments?
I wanted, oh, sorry, Daisy, you go ahead.
Daisy?
Okay, I think it's important to know that there's two sides to a coin, right? You have heads and tails.
Yeah.
And life is kind of like that, where you can't have the sun without the moon or the rain without the sunshine. You can't have good without bad, right? So you have to, people have to understand that. And not everybody accepts that. Not everybody can see that you can't have sunshine all the time, without the rain. So that's a part of the universe, that's a part of life. And also, we need to be open, receptive, and receiving of the universe and the oneness of the universe in order to kind of evolve, I think, as beings. So if you're not open to, spiritual practices, because that's what we work or are talking about, if you're not open and receptive to spiritual practices, it's really hard to be in tune with it. So you have to be ready and willing and wanting to accept that and, practice it honestly and religiously, or just honestly,
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I don't think you can do without, when there's good, there's bad. You can't really do without one or the other. You need both of them to balance. What's that called? The yin and the yang, or something like that in Zen philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what it's called. The feminine and masculine side.
Yeah.
That's how we're made. Like there's man and there's woman, right?
Yeah.
Like there's two sides to a coin. There's a heads and a tails. So it's kind of like that's how things kind of evolve or are made to be. Anyways, those are some of my thoughts on it.
Thank you for that.
I think if it was time to go and somebody came up to me and said, okay, you're going to live another life, what's the one thing you'd want to have? And I think what that would be to be okay with what is, rather than not being okay with what is and want something else. Because a lot of times when we talk about stuff, we're talking about something else that we're striving for. We want what we want that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, when I think about just being okay with what is, there's something about that stimulates me to think that is really the best place that you could be, because then you would be like okay with all of it. You wouldn't be trying to change the way you feel about things. You'd be okay with what's happening. And I don't know, there's something about that I really like.
You're talking about contentment.
Yeah, you could call it that.
Yourself, being content with who you are, what we have. That makes, I think, a big leap in life. It's just,
yeah, just not judging things. Just not judging things,
Yeah.
like good and bad are in the eye of the beholder mostly. And, that separates us from what is, doesn't it? When we're not one with it, whatever it is. And, that there are times I've noticed where I can be with something I don't like, and it's okay. I'm not needing to get out of it. But I think the way a lot of people think about life is they want to get something they don't have, and when they get it, they think they're going to be okay and happy. And I remember I had a roommate once. She bought a new car, because she thought it was going to make her happy, and it did for 2 weeks or a month or whatever it was. And then that was it. And then it was just a hunk of iron that got her from point A to B. So, I think that would be the ultimate place to be. Just okay, not have some lofty goal in mind because you want to get out of where you are and be in a better place, but just be okay. If it's really fantastic, then you're taking advantage of it 100%. And if it's not so fantastic, you're at least not fighting against it.
And you're right, because what you said is very practical, because I felt that way when I first got my car. When my father bought me a car, I thought, oh, that's going to make me so happy. That's exactly how I felt, that for the first few weeks or month or two, sure, it was happy. But then after that, there was no happiness left in it. It just faded. That's exactly what I thought and felt. That, oh, I'm going to get a car, I'm going to be so happy. And that was a long time ago, though, but you're right. You're right about that.
Well, that's consumerism too, right?
Yeah.
A certain image in that car, right? A certain lifestyle with this outfit,
And my friend said the same
a
thing.
place
too.
that you live in or whatever. Yeah.
So
So,
my friend got a car too, and she goes, "Oh, I thought that would make me so happy."
Yeah.
So it was really funny that we're on the same page with it. Yeah, but then now, my meditation is making me happy inside. I think happiness is inside of us, and you have to do things that make you happy and find it, and then you'll feel it in your heart. You'll feel it inside of you. But, okay, is it making you feel content? Like what is it that you're doing that's making you feel good? Is it exercise? Is it swimming, biking, hiking, whatever? People have their own, ways of happiness. So they have to find it to make them happy inside, within. Thank you.
oh, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, it made me feel good just thinking about what Brent was saying, just to be, good with what is. And that's certainly worth striving for. And that's, a way of putting what I'm trying to do too. It's just trying to be good with what is. And that's a be wonderful, wonderful place to be for sure.
What if the bad stuff we saw it as a challenge? A challenge. Can I deal with this? Can I accept this? Can I face this? What am I made of? Can I really face this? Can I open up and surrender to it completely? Just be there right then. That just appeals to me so much.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Seeing challenges as opportunities rather than labeling it as obstacle or something that you need to get rid of or something that is in your way. Rather, this is a chance for me to grow. This is a chance for me to expand my consciousness. This is a chance for this is presenting itself as a catalyst for something really good to happen in my life, along the course of my personal development. So if one change the attitude, if one change your language, your actually whole situation, entire world changes along with it.
Perhaps it's even simpler than that. When we say, I'm okay with it, or I'm at peace with it, or I'm content with it, what Buddha said was that we're just having a calm mind or a peaceful mind. And if we're not happy, then that expresses itself in an unpeaceful mind or an agitated mind. So the trick in his way of thinking was all we have to do is train our mind to be calm all the time. That's the nature of what I'm trying to teach in meditation. Just
Exactly.
cool.
I'm getting that. That's why I meditate a lot more often now. Like try morning, afternoon, and then evening, or at least morning, and then before I sleep, so I get a better night's sleep. Exactly, Kenny. It makes you feel calmer, happier, and peaceful. Like I'm enjoying it. And that's why so many people revert to yoga. Okay.
And it's a
how it's
trainable
that.
thing.
Pardon
We
me?
get in habits, and if the habits help us, great. But if they don't help us,
Exactly.
we can fix it.
Right. Because I think we're mature now, and I've come to a plateau or stage in my life where materialistically I have what I want financially and materialistically. So now I'm swaying away from that because that's giving me physical comfort, like in terms of food, shelter, clothing, right? But the spiritual, like meditation, yoga, and stuff like that, things like in that avenue, towards that avenue, is giving me some peace and inner happiness. Like it's giving me calmness and nirvana without the drugs, right? Without the drugs. So I don't do any of those. I do some doctor's medicine, but not without the psychedelic drugs and whatnot, you know what I mean? So that's right, Kenny.
Any comments?
I wanted to just comment on something Katura said, and the way navigating your life, and that is what makes me strong, and I really like that. I like when I'm going through my day and stop and think, what's the right thing to do? What's the, the better thing to do? And I like your way of thinking about it, because what makes me strong, and it's just another layer of it, just sort of the same thing. And that would be the good thing. What would be the right thing is something that makes you strong. What's good for you, and yeah, I have to stop quite a lot and go, wait a minute, what's the right thing to do? You're about to do something stupid, or, being a bit harsh that way, but
yeah, but sometimes the stupid thing kind of shakes it up a little bit, So that's the part where it helps me get rid of my judgments and my rigid thinking of this is right and wrong. And I'm like, oh, yeah, a little more flexible.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of made me think about our struggles with what makes us happy. And I remember I was in college, and I couldn't take any time off to buy a new vehicle, and I needed a vehicle to get back and forth to college. And my van broke down, and it was a write-off. And so my dad said, I'll take care of it for you. And he bought me a Pinto, and I just hated it. Oh my God, I just was at odds with this. There's nothing I could do to this car that made me feel any better about it, right? But I drove it for years, and it was a solid car, right? It served me well, but I couldn't wait to get rid of it. One day I'm ready to go to work, and the seat literally fell through the floor, and I'm in the driveway, and the seat is just right on the pavement. I said, okay. I had a 2x4 and shoved it in there, and I went to work. I said, I can't do this anymore. I bought a new vehicle, and I thought, oh great, finally I'm out of this loop, but now that it was great and everything, it was like a little pickup truck. I had a water treatment business at the time, so it served me well. But again, it all lets you down. It's just, it's really the silly things you do. And buying a new vehicle was actually stupid. I shouldn't have done that. And, but I was so frustrated. I just, go out and do that. And, but that whole experience, it changed my mind, and it, getting that truck, that was stupid. So it changed my whole dynamic. Yeah. With how I engaged with that particular part of my life, the vehicle. And so it was just, from then on, it's just like, this is a chunk of metal, like somebody else said earlier, get you from point A to point B. So that's how I engage with it. And I've never had any issue with that sort of part of my life. And if I hadn't done that, gone through that, silliness, I might still be chasing that as sort of my happiness. And it's just like, no, that's not where it is. But you wouldn't think so if you bought into all those commercials, and, and you're seeing the new Audis or whatever, Carmen Gia or the Lamborghini running down the street, just has no charge for me at all anymore. And going, it's just a way to get from down the street. That's all it is. Yeah. Anyway.
Alexandria, anything else you'd like to add?
You know what? I started out touching on what Dave was saying about his experience with his car, and all of our comings and goings with material things, or rather the material things coming and going from our lives and having their different effects on us. I started out life actually in an extremely wealthy family, a very wealthy, very materialistic.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that I'm grateful because, I got to have experiences really that, and I'm not boasting, but I really got to have some experiences that most people in their life will never get to do.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the material, right? Being around a certain kind of crowd, having the ability to go to certain places, attend certain events and such, like of that nature. But really, in spite of all of that, the best way I could describe myself was like I felt like things would be akin to everybody else's experiences. Like, sure, it was fun to be able to go on a trip. It was fulfilling at the moment to be able to get a certain, piece of clothing or piece of jewelry or whatever. But it was just like it lasted for all of 5 minutes. And in some cases, I didn't even take the tags off what I had spent thousands of dollars on.
Yes.
I didn't look at it again. It sat in closets, forgotten about, unloved, unused, unappreciated. And I just felt really shitty inside because at the end of the day, my family was really not, it was like they were providing all of this for me. And it was like I was being provided for in so many of these monetary, materialistic, superficial ways. But
Yes.
what I really needed the most
Mhm.
was always eluding me, which was just acceptance of who I really was, okay? And acceptance by my family and just love and some authenticity and some room and permission to be the true me and just to be human, to be messy, to be silly, to be a kid, to be organic, to be natural. I had none of that growing up. And it made,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Alexandria, did you
Yes.
have like maids or, caregivers and that sort of thing when you were younger?
Yes, we
Or-
did. Yes, we did. We
Yeah,
had a
because
lot.
I
Yeah.
worked in Kuwait for 3 years, right?
Mm.
They're a very wealthy
Mhm.
country, right? And you really see what wealth can do to a population, right?
Mhm.
To, a society. Because it isn't all rosy, right? We think it is because they have it so easy. But I remember because I taught grade 8 science to Kuwaiti girls, and often their parents were traveling all over the world. They're going to this all girls school. They had a maid from, say, Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And, they really, their life was being in a mall or going to a resort, in Kuwait or wherever. But yeah, they had a very superficial life, and they
Mhm.
would express that sometimes to me,
Mhm.
right? They,
Mhm.
they didn't even know their own language properly because they were learning their language as they're developing, but also they're picking up language from the maid or
Mhm.
the driver or the,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, from other cultures, yeah.
No, totally, absolutely, yes. And in my case, it was that was quite an interesting experience because sometimes the maids, the help of the house was really my only company or the only place that I could find any authenticity or like find some solace with. And sometimes I found myself envying the the life of our domestic help because I would talk to them about and I would ask them about their families, about their kids, how they spend their times and everything. And I could just remember this. We had this one woman, a Filipino lady, and she was so warm and big-hearted and, natural and joyful. And
That's right.
whenever I would talk to her about her family, her face just lit up and she spoke with so much pride and joy and, warmth
Yeah.
about her children and they were spending time together and how everything and her voice, the tone of her voice and her body language even just completely uh, changed when it would go from being presentable in front of her employers, which were my
Mhm.
family, my grandparents, to just us talking in the kitchen casually. And I was like, I want a mom like that. I want a family environment like that. I want to be able to go home and to be able to talk about who I am. I want to be able to be accepted as who I am. Because as a transgender person, this was not something that it was never even talked about. It was completely, I knew who I was, but my family was in complete and utter denial.
Yeah.
Went through many abuses from them. I went through a lot of psychological, physical torture, but it's like, I don't know, they were trying to compensate and trying to say, well, that's all right. What do you have to cry about? Yes, we hit you and we do all this terrible stuff, but look at where you live, and look at what the money you have to spend,
Yeah.
and look at your allowances, and look at the clothes you wear, and look
Yeah.
at the things you get to do and the places you get to go. But really, at the end of the day, yes, that's true. But also, what does it matter when you live like, when you can't live as yourself?
Yeah.
Not very much, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even learning responsibility. Like I had some students that would say, "Oh, I help the cook. I
Mm,
help the
mhm,
maid clean," because
mm,
they looked at that as developing something within themselves, right? Part
mhm,
of their
mhm,
character.
mhm,
So they didn't have to do it. They sincerely wanted to do it. They felt
mm.
that was building some character in them. Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes maybe it's television or something, but it kind of glamorizes, the wealthy when there's a lot of lonely, wealthy people out there, right? So,
Well, again, Diane, because it goes back to what you said, right? We live in a really, like we were talking about at the beginning of this evening, we're in such a consumeristic, like the mass consciousness of society and the world at this point in history is so plugged in to consumerism, to materialism, to that aspect of life, right? So it is really everywhere. And I think that a lot of people, when they have learned to equate their value to their material or to their monetary value, right, as opposed to their value as a being, as a value of being an extension of nature, an extension of source, based on their creation, based on their connection to the creator, to source, whatever you would like to call it, right? And all of that is forgotten about, and it's just, okay, how many zeros are in my bank account, and what kind of a house do I have to live in, and
Yeah.
what can I call, quote unquote, mine, right?
Yeah.
What kind of car do I drive? What kind of possessions do I have? Who do I get to hang
Yeah.
out with?
And
And
also
yeah,
that leads to competition, right? When you
very
focus
exactly,
on the material world, there's always
exactly.
going to be someone that has more houses than you, more cars than
Yes,
you, a better outfit than you, whatever, right?
yes,
Whereas when you're working on your own personal development, there's only one you, right?
completely.
Okay.
Yes, completely agree. Yeah.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone else? Katura, anything you'd like to share?
Oh, just enjoying the conversation.
Okay. Kenny?
I'm having a difficult time adjusting to the vision of Dave driving a Pinto.
I thought I had a problem with my landlord.
Yeah. I think I just had a thought that our connection to source, it is so elusive. It's for me anyway. Am I connected to source? I don't know, maybe. It definitely, the practice brings something to my life, but I think the best version of it is our connection to each other. This is our I think I'm going to try to adopt that as my connection to source, as being connected to each other, to be present to that. Is the whatever, I mean, the whole idea of namaste, right? As I honor the divine in you, the divine in me honors the divine in you. And I think that's kind of what I'm just kind of welled up in me tonight. What popped into my head. It's just like, yeah, I think that's going to be my connection to source, is my connection to the others around, and wherever I whatever I'm presented with.
You do that though. You put your attention on your crows. You put your attention on Beasley the cat in the neighborhood, or
Sure.
like even your friends, or
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just not to. It's just not so. It's not a big question. I can feel that. It's tangible. And yeah, I'm spending a lot of time up in the clouds too, but I think the real connection is with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely exploring a very much more just spiritual only path. And then I was like, but we're in a body. Like, let's let's enjoy this a little more tangibly here and now as well.
Yeah.
Your body isn't spiritual?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Celebrating more of it is spiritual instead of, leaving here to join the spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bringing it all in and integrating it. I think, something you say often is just, I learned how to go up here, which is so much better than being down stuck. But then all of a sudden I was like, no, I want the full range of all of it, like in the here and now in the physical form.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess we do look at the good and bad of things. Like if you see that really great dessert and there's a certain, you go, I don't need those pounds, but isn't it nice to enjoy that, right? You're in the physical body and sometimes you just have to enjoy these things, right? So, yeah.
I never feel guilt about having dessert.
I know he doesn't. He never has guilt about anything that you eat, really. You just
Well, if you're going to enjoy something, be there, enjoy it, like just, love it. And yeah, this is great. And, but yeah, and then let it go. You don't have to keep eating chocolate bars, but every once in a while.
even movies, like Dave will go to movies. And just so you know, Dave and I are married, and he's in the garage, which is where I keep him, out in the garage. But every time he'll come back from a film, I say, how was the film? He said, fantastic. And I guess it is fantastic if you go with that mindset that I'm going out to enjoy myself at a film. He enjoys the film.
And they're really bad films.
Yeah, they're films that, yeah.
They're like,
I'm not fond of.
He's going alone for a reason.
Sorry?
Said he's going alone for a reason.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Nobody else can handle it. I go to all this, the blockbuster DC comic ones.
yeah, the big
Thor.
screen.
Actually, Diane went to see Thor with me, and
I did, and I enjoyed it. Actually, it was
Enjoyed it.
fantastic.
yeah.
But
Anyway, that's just sort of, to me, those kind of movies are like, I say it's like drinking beer. You just drink beer because it's fun. But if you really want to have a good, real whatever better experience, you drink scotch or brandy or something, or wine, or you get into all the nuances of it. You go into a deeper experience with it. But the movies I go to theaters for, it's just Budweiser, Bud Light. But it's fun.
yeah, that's fun when I do go.
Once
So all those characters are part of the one we are.
Oh
So we
yeah,
kinda
and
explore all of that. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, those characters like Thor and almost well, no, they're mythical characters. You can go as far with that as you want to. It can be an interesting study as well. It's those classic mythical stories.
Yeah, so they mirror something we want to experience, right? And so that's all of it's a part of the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Joseph Campbell, the great myth master.
Never heard it said that way before.
He said, yeah, Star Wars was just the hero's journey, a mythological story of the hero's journey.
Well, for my money, let's think about what we've been saying here earlier tonight. We talked about a connection to source. And I wonder if there was a day when they thought Thor was source. Is that what the myth is? And the people who lived then, what, 1 or 2, say 2 or 3,000 years ago, how did they view the magical, mysterious, mythical? So the myths have come down to us, and we still call them Thor's Day and Woden's Day, and so they're still a part of our culture.
Yeah.
What does it really mean to them, though?
Mm.
We think about ourselves, but we never really think too much about what was it like to be a human being 3,000 years ago. Whoa, in Northern Europe, in
Pretty
Scandinavia,
bad scene, if you ask me.
oh, savages, I don't know. Whether it's good or bad, it was, and I wonder what it would be like. As you can probably guess, I've been writing a biography on a guy who's an ancient historian. So he
Oh,
loves all this kind of stuff.
Mm.
yeah.
Just loves all the talk about
Yeah.
the ancient languages. And I love the ancient myths. So that's why I asked about Thor or Woden and Source.
Mhm.
We like to think we're so sophisticated because there's only one God and all that. And they had a whole, we mock the pagans sometimes, or some people do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not so sure that maybe they were smarter than we think.
Mm.
My friend, the ancient historian, sure thinks so.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, very interesting.
Well, they all come out of the source, though, too, right?
Well, that's what we would say, that they come from source, as maybe we could say we do.
Mm.
Well,
that
we
true?
have to come from source. I mean, where else are we going to come from?
You hatched out of an egg. I don't know. So if you look at your human body, the human body gets every single atom of it comes from the planet Earth. So we're nothing but children of Earth.
Yeah, but
All
Earth's
I'm saying-
molecules and atoms came from other places.
Yeah. So there's atoms and molecules, and we're all. So when we say, whenever you guys say we're all one, then I'm able to go along with that in a physical sense, because my body is made of stuff that comes from Earth. And I guess every human body and every animal body and every plant body, they're living creatures, but they're part of the Earth. So we could make a good case for we're all one there. But what about Thor and Source? What about them? I'm not so sure we're so sophisticated in that arena as we are in the atoms and molecules and biology arena.
Yeah, but I mean, everything about being human and being alive has nothing practically to do with atoms. I mean, I never think about atoms and molecules. I mean, I'm thinking about a spiritual, energetic kind of a feeling. I mean, that's where we're all really one in. I mean, our bodies are separate; they're different, but there's something else underneath all that stuff, that is from source, that radiates love and radiates oneness, and all of that is part of us and coming through us. That's what I see as oneness.
So is it kind of like the sun then that radiates?
You could say so, yeah. You could say that the sun is a source point of a black
Light
hole. A black hole is the opposite of that. It's sucking in stuff. So yeah, there's something coming out from within everywhere, like in us, in space. It's like, yeah, there's just this energetic flow. I call it a source flow, really. It's a source flow that is in everything. That's what the source, that's what the Star Wars, the Force is, right? The Force. It's a feeling. It's a deep seated feeling.
So does our perception affect what we radiate out? So I'm going back to your landlord situation because of the situation with him, that conflict.
You had to bring that up.
I think it's important to think about, right? Because
I understand.
we have a certain perception of that other person. So what are we radiating out? Are we radiating out more conflict, or are we radiating out a different view of the person? And the reason I say that is I had to do that when I shared this in the previous video, but I think it's worth sharing again. When I was in Kuwait, I had a teacher that was part of our team. She was from Malaysia, and she had a long history at that school. Like, my students, their sisters had all had this teacher, right? As a grade 8 math teacher, that sort of thing. But because I was a new kid on the block, I'm in my 40s and that, and it's a different career from what I was doing before. And, I just finding my way there. But this person would sit up in the staff room and tear teachers apart. She'd be with a fellow teacher, and that's what they did, right? And also, she would pump the students for information on other teachers. So my students would be asking me questions, all this sort of stuff, and they'd go back and share information, right, to her. So I remember I thought, how am I going to deal with this woman? Like, really, And all I thought is, pretend that she likes you. Pretend that you like her, and pretend that she likes you. And it caused a major shift in our relationship, because we became really good friends. It wasn't immediate, but I became more grounded. I could, and she actually it got to a point she couldn't even sit and chat with that other teacher anymore because she found her too negative, right? So because I was willing to change my perception of that person and my relationship with that person, it shifted the relationship into a positive manner, a positive way. So,
Cool.
so I just I'd share that because it had a great impact on me, right? So, and her, it really helped her a lot too.
Did you do the changing, or did the changing just sort of happen as part of the source flow of all energy?
I did the changing. I made a conscious effort to change my view of that person and my relationship with that person, and my perception that I thought she didn't like me. I pretended she liked me. And I think, in fact, I express that to you now, but I think it's something that maybe we should all think about doing, right? I don't even know if I do it that often. I guess I do it now too, but that was like a major shift, right? Where I really noticed it.
But all that had to come into you first before you even had the idea of wanting to like her. I mean, you had to feel that first, and then you wanted more of that, right? And so I'll just pretend she likes me, and that.
No, I had to, first of all, I had to think, first of all, do I want to stay in this job? And then I thought, if I'm going to stay in this job, how am I going to work with this person, right? Like, because she's got a long history in this school, right? And so that's when I realized that I have to change how I think about that person.
And you did that because all that stuff came to mind, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that had to come to mind first, and then that could happen.
Yeah, but that's like anything. You have to experience something and contemplate it, think it out, and then, okay, how can I resolve this, right, in some way? Anyway.
Yeah, good thing. Anyway, I'm gonna bid you
Yes,
all
it is late.
adieu.
Thank you, everyone. Alexandria, thank you so much for sharing your story as well, because yeah, it's you've had experiences, like you said, a lot of people haven't had, right? And so I really appreciate you sharing that, because I'm sure it will help others that see this video. And Katura, thank you for
It's
joining.
lovely to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for
nice to meet you.
Alexandria, did you want to say anything before we end?
Well, just to add to that, Diane, what you were saying about your shift in perception, of that person, and making a conscious effort to try even just to feel differently about her on the most internal level, on a personal level, right?
Yes.
Like I've in the most relatable way, in the most recent experience of mine, recently actually. So I've actually been on a rather long sabbatical from work. And today was my first day back. And, thank goodness, because in the lower mainland right now, we are getting really pummeled with snow. And this is just something that I do from home. But even working from home, because when I had left it, it was in such a state of shambles and disarray, and, nasty people on both ends of the spectrum, people feeling fried on the staff side, people, being very agitated because of the lack of togetherness, or whatever you want to call it, organization, preparedness, professionalism, whatever, calling in from the client side. And I was just like, oh, and I was getting, gearing myself up. I had a lot going on in my personal life. Things were going on in my home that I was not very happy about. And I was getting ready to undergo, really major surgery. And I was a wreck at that time, and work was a wreck. And I was just like, when I handed in my note for the medical leave, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna, even revisit this. So I had that pause, I had that time away, and my time away was what it was. I had leisurely time, all the time in the world to myself, great. And then the clock starts really ticking, and before you know it, I left in the summer, and before you know it, we're here at the end of November. And I was really dreading, actually, the prospect of needing to go back. But today, I didn't expect to go back today because people were not replying to my emails, and I wasn't sure if the arrangement was set or not. But I got a message early this morning while I was getting out of bed from work, and I was like, oh, okay. So I logged in, and it was an amazing day. Everyone was really nice. Everyone was really supportive, very, very sweet. And I had found out that they had implemented a number of changes throughout the company that made my job and made the job that I was loathing actually significantly easier and easier to handle and easier to manage going forwards. But just correlating that, right? Like I was a wreck and it was a wreck. And now I'm on the other side of my healing. I'm on the other end of my surgery. I'm feeling a lot better. I've sorted out so much in my life. And I'm just like, I'm a new person coming out on this other end. And in relation to that, right, my work has opened up like a new dimension of it that I didn't know that it could have before.
That's
my home has, undergone the same kind of change. It's been a huge energetic shift. My relationships, really everything. And it all started just with a very, well, it's complicated, but really it's not actually as well, because it just started with a simple intention within myself. And from then on, it was like a ripple effect. Like, you throw a pebble across a pond, exactly like that. Yeah.
That's excellent. And you said you were doing your practice too, right?
Correct. Yes. No, I was doing, I was doing my practice, and really, because this year, 2022 has been very transformative for me. It's a lot to cover in just a few minutes that we have left, but to summarize, really, I really started to take responsibility for my role in my experience, right? And that was so very empowering, because I stopped playing the victim. I stopped finger pointing. I stopped saying, look at this system, it's fucked. Look at that person, they're wrong. Look at this person, if only they hadn't hurt me. If only they hadn't do what they had done. And going on that role. And it was just a very quiet little voice within me that started to say, well, okay, we've beat that all to death. That is done to death. Okay, we know what's wrong out there. Okay, not denying that. We're not excusing that other person's behavior, so and so's thing. Okay, what they did was what they did. What have I contributed? What has this self contributed to being in this situation, positive or negative? And from then on, it was just, Yeah,
and I think actually that's a good way of ending, right? Is that whole idea of taking self responsibility, right? So, thank you, Alexandria.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.